Hi, my name's Harmony Rocourt, and this is my placenta video. So the first part we're going to talk about is the chorion. So basically the chorion, as you see from the picture right here, is the kind of on the outer surface. In mammals, it basically develops a rich supply of blood vessels um, and it forms like a connection with the endometrium, with the endometrial lining of the uterus. The chorion and the endometrium come together and they form what we know as the placenta. Um, so the placenta, obviously, we know is like the principal organ for an embryo's respiration, nutrition, and giving off waste as well. The amnion, so you see according to the picture right here, is basically a thin, tough membrane that basically protects the developing embryo or the child. It allows for nutrients to reach the fetus and basically for waste to be removed. The amniotic fluid is found inside of the amnion and will provide protection for the developing fetus until it's time for the pregnancy to end, basically. And it basically it actually forms inside of the chorion. The amnion is usually fused with the outer chorion, and this usually happens between 14 weeks gestation. So this is the best part, the parental surface of the placenta. So I'm a lab technician and I also see these all the time, but I couldn't get into a lab to actually show you this, so I'm showing you the picture. So the parental surface or the maternal surface, but we're going to use parental surface, is the surface of the placenta. It's usually very dark maroon in color, and you see these little lobules around there. The structure should be complete and should not have any missing lobules. Usually when you do see that, that means there is a case for retaining placentas, which can be dangerous for the mother. As you can see, they're usually one unit. It looks like one unit and it shouldn't have holes or little patches missing. Obviously, that's dangerous if it is. Okay, so this is the fetal surface of the placenta. Um, it should be shiny, gray, translucent. You'll see the veins and the arteries, and obviously the umbilical cord attached to it as here. And it should be thin enough, like or light enough where you can see the parental surface. Like you can see the bottom part right here, and that's basically what you're seeing right now. Next up is the actual umbilical cord. We saw that from the last slide as well. It's basically the baby's supply line. It carries the baby's blood back and forth between the baby and the placenta. It develops, delivers nutrients and oxygen to the baby, and it basically removes the baby's waste products. The umbilical cord usually begins to form about 5 weeks gestation after conception. At term, the umbilical cord can reach about 55 to 60 centimeters in length, give or take, and the diameter and thickness is about 2 to 2.5 centimeters. The structure itself should have like abundant amount of what we call Wharton's jelly, and there should not be any knots or thrombosis or like hemorrhages in the umbilical cord itself. Obviously, that means that there's a problem. So when there is a delivery, they usually give an estimate about the length of the cord, and we have to make sure also when we're looking at the cord that we identify two arteries in a vein. So when in pathology, when I do it, I cut pieces of the umbilical cord and you'll see three little dots, the two arteries in the vein. That's what it should look like. Next up, so this is the space that contains the amniotic fluid and the baby. So basically, it's like a very thin wall sac that surrounds the fetus during pregnancy. The sac is filled with liquid that's made by the fetus, the amniotic fluid, and the membrane that covers the fetal side of the placenta, which is the amnion. It basically protects the fetus from like injury, and it also kind of helps regulate the fetus's temperature, body temperature. It's basically a protective home for the fetus. Lastly is the arteries on the surface of the placenta. Like a healthy placenta, like what you're seeing right now, will usually look like this. You'll see these thick arteries coming out. They usually start from the umbilical cord. So at the junction of the umbilical cord and the placenta, the umbilical arteries branch to form the chorionic arteries, and the transverse, the fetal surface of the placenta, into the chorionic plate, which is what you're seeing here, before they further branch out until they enter the villi. So it looks like a row of roads and things of that nature. So you see from the umbilical cord, it'll branch out into all these little veins and things, and they obviously they're lifelines for the fetus. So in this presentation is basically a short presentation showing about the placenta itself, its lifeline, its importance to the fetus and the mother, and I mean the parent. Um, we can go over once more. The chorion, as I said, it's it attaches to the endometrial lining of the female uterus. It comes together to form the placenta itself. The amnion is like a thin, tough membrane that protects the baby. The parental surface, it's dark colored, maroon usually, and it has these, it's divided into all these little lobules. There should not be any missing pieces. If there is, obviously we have to take into account that maybe the mother or the parent did not pass all of the placenta, which means this can be a retained products of conception issue. Now, the fetal surface, it's usually shiny and gray and translucent. It has to be so translucent that you should be able to see the paternal surface of the placenta. If you can't, there's obviously also a problem as well. It could be infection, things of that nature. The umbilical cord is basically the baby's supply line. It carries the baby's blood back and forth. It can be like 55 to 60 centimeters in length, and it should always have two arteries and one vein. And obviously, the next one is the space that contains the fluid in the baby. That's is there to protect the baby from injury, and it basically helps to regulate the temperature of the fetus. And lastly is the arteries, which you're seeing in this particular slide. Um, it's basically branches out from the umbilical cord into the placenta, the chorionic plate, onto the fetal surface. And those are the major parts of the placenta. Thank you.